Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart was born in 1756. From his childhood, Wolfgang showed an incredible talent for music, such that his father sacrificed his own career for the sake of his education and the education of his gifted sister, Maria Anna, known as Nanner. His father, Leopold, was a violinist for the Archbishop of Salisbury and became a deputy Kapellmeister in 1763. He was a well-known composer and author of a celebrated treatise on violin playing published in 1756. Both Wolfgang and Maria Anna became keyboard virtuosos, and Wolfgang was an exceptional violinist just like his father. From 1762 till 1773, Leopold took his children and toured around Europe, where they performed for aristocrats and elites, in private gatherings in Austria, Hungary, Germany, France, England, Holland, and Italy, beginning with performances for the Elector of Bavaria at Munich and the Empress Maria Theresa in Vienna. During these performances, Wolfgang played various pieces, sight-read, and improvised a lot of variations, fugues, arias, and fantasias. He composed his first Minuet and Trio in G major at the age of 8 years old, although it is suggested by some historians that it might be composed by his sister Maria Anna. In 1763, the whole family toured for 3 years and a half around Europe again, where they had lengthy stops in London and Paris. During this period, Mozart was influenced by Schubert's work, and this was evident in his piano sonatas. In London, he was influenced by Johann Christian Bach, from whom he learned the use of various elements from Italian opera, such as song-like melodies, the beautiful embellishments, and the ambiguous harmony. And these became the traits of Mozart's compositions. When Maria Anna got married, her father insisted that she stops touring and public performances and she settled down in Salzburg, while her father and Wolfgang continued to tour the world. Wolfgang used to send her compositions to review for him, as according to their father, she was the most talented in the family. But women were prohibited at that time from careers in music, especially after getting married. At the age of 16, Mozart was given the job of an unpaid concertmaster at the Archbishop Colorado in Salzburg, where he was asked to compose church music. He was interested at that time in writing opera and instrumental music, so he left and toured Europe again, trying to find a job, but his efforts went in vain and he returned to his hometown disappointed. And throughout the journey, he fell in love with a singer called Aloysia Weber, whom he eventually married her sister, Constance Weber, and sadly after that trip, his mother got ill and died in Paris. He then worked for the court in Salzburg for 8 years, and in 1780 he was commissioned to write an opera seria for Munich. He supervised and composed the production of the Idomenei, and he tasted independence while doing that. After he was asked to return to Salzburg by the Archbishop Colorado, he dutifully returned. However, he left after he felt that he was being treated as a servant, which was against his father's advice. For the next 10 years, Mozart gained his living as a freelance musician in Vienna. His Singspiel, The Abduction from the Harem, 1782, was a great success, and so was his operas. He also took as much private students as he can, asking them to pay in advance not to lose money in case they didn't show up. He performed in private and public concerts, and he gained the reputation of the finest pianist in Vienna. In Vienna as well, he worked as his own impresario and put up concerts for himself and collected all the proceedings afterwards. And for these events, he composed a lot of successful pieces, like the Piano Sonata alla Turca in 1783. He also did a smart thing. He sold his publications to several publishers in different countries, as copyrights did not surpass the national boundaries. His compositions included piano works, chamber music, concertos, dances, symphonies, and songs, plus he wrote a lot of sonatas, fantasias, variations, piano duets, and etudes for his students. After that, he was elected by the Emperor Joseph II of Vienna as the chamber music composer, where he was offered a steady wage and a boost to his reputation even further, with minimal responsibilities. The emperor said that it was a way to keep Mozart in Vienna, showing that it was in part a reward for his brilliant musical activities. This was the first time that Mozart had actual financial stability. However, unluckily, it didn't last for long. In 1788, there was a war between Vienna and the Turks, and this led to economic and financial instabilities. As in times of war, all the resources are directed towards the military forces, there is less patronage for music. This caused Mozart's work to decline, with less concerts and less students and less publications. This was a really difficult time for Mozart and his family. They faced a lot of financial difficulties. And those difficulties were because of several reasons. For instance, his family had grown. Work was scarce. He wasn't able to keep up with the expensive lifestyle suitable for an imperial court. He lost a lawsuit brought against him by a prominent aristocrat. And above all, he had a gambling problem. As a result, he was forced to move his family to cheaper quarters, and there are letters dating back to 1788, where he wrote begging for help from his friend and brother Freemason, Michael Puchberg, who always helped Mozart generously. Mozart and Haydn were good friends, and they spent a lot of time together during winters in Vienna. They had mutual admiration to one another and influenced one another musically, although Mozart was 24 years younger than Haydn. Mozart dedicated 6 quartets that he wrote between 1782 and 1785 to Haydn, where he spoke of him as a father. He then wrote his string quintets, which included 2 violins, 2 violas, and a cello, which have been admired much more than his quartets. These are the quintets in C major and G minor, and the quintet for piano and winds. Mozart himself wrote to his father about these quintets, saying, "I myself think it's the best work I've written in my entire life." He also composed serenades and divertimentos that gained him a lot of fame in Salzburg. These were composed for garden parties, outdoor performances, weddings, birthdays, and for private concerts. In collaboration with the imperial court poet Lorenzo da Ponte, Mozart composed the music for 3 of the most world-famous Italian comic operas: The Marriage of Figaro, 1786, Don Giovanni, 1787, and Cose fan tutte, 1790. The emotions were raised to a new level in these productions due to Da Ponte's libretto, which included a lot of morals and high tension between the serious and the comic characters. This was next to Mozart's psychological penetration and his genius musical characterization, where he used an orchestra with wind and brass instruments. During the final year of his life, work was getting prosperous again, and in April he successfully applied for the role of an unpaid assistant to the elderly Kapellmeister of St. Stephen's Cathedral, Leopold Hoffmann. However, Sadly, Mozart passed away in 1791, while Leopold Hoffmann lived until 1793. On December 1791, the composer Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart died at his home in Vienna, Austria, at the age of 35. The circumstances of his death have attracted many research and speculations. There were rumors that Salieri, who was the court composer of Emperor Joseph II, might have poisoned Mozart, but those were not true, as there were recent findings of collaborations among the two composers. Plus, Salieri mourned Mozart at his funeral and even later taught Mozart's son. Plus, there was no evidence whatsoever that Salieri poisoned Mozart. At the time of his death, he was regarded as the greatest composer of his time.